Hey everyone, this is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and I have a very special guest today. We are here with Eldrazi Tron Authority, Wojtek Radosz, also known online as Laplasjan. He's been crushing online with Eldrazi Tron nonstop, and not in just any era. We're talking the Hogak summer he's been doing this, so that is very impressive. And if you want to learn the insights to people like Wojtek, you're going to want to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. So thank you very much, Wojtek, for coming on and doing this interview with me.
Yeah, hi everybody. I want to say one thing before we start, that I
Sure.
thank my colleague and my previous roommate Damian, because probably he made this possible because he's watching your stream and so on. So probably he made some comment that after you interviewed somebody from Magic Online leaderboard, that you could make an interview on me, and this is how we start. And to be honest, it was easier to make 5-0 in Hogak era with Eldrazi Tron, and we can talk about that later. But now it is more difficult than it used to be. So
Well,
just a fun fact.
Well, yeah, okay. So, what exactly are your accomplishments? What have you been doing with Eldrazi Tron lately?
Okay, so previously I was playing Counter's Company, and I was playing a lot, and sadly, it was I was unable to achieve too much with Counter's Company when Creeping Chill and Archetype Phoenix got printed, and then Hogak era and so on.
We all
But
could
again,
feel the
because
pain of that era.
yeah, and now we are relieved, right? This is like no fatal shooting anymore. Wow, the word is beautiful again. Yeah, so
But you won't go back to Counters Company.
I could, but there are many problems. The biggest problem is that I kept winning with Eldrazi Tron. It was hard to abandon the deck that you win with. Yeah, so I picked it during the, let's say, Hogak summer, or in the middle of it probably. Mainly because I was looking for some deck from let's say tier 1, and I found this deck. It's fine for me. I like playing creatures. I like playing decks that have various strategies. And here, either you try to complete Tron, you try to beat with creatures, you try to lock with Chalice and Snaring Breach and some other stuff. I like that. I like that idea. I like that style of play. So I picked that deck. I trained with this a bit, and for my first tournament, it was MCQ in GP Krakow. I picked this deck, probably some, I don't want to say random, but some 75 from that I found online. Maybe changed one or two cards. I managed to reach top 4, lose to Sodek, who advanced to PT Richmond there with his Hogak Dredge, and then I started. Let's say, I mean, generally people like word mastering. I don't like it unless I really try to master deck, because if you play like 20, 50 or 100 matches, you are still learning. You are mastering after, I know, 500, something like that. But I started mastering the deck, and I made many changes. I've written article actually one some time ago. Yeah, and then
You can
I
give a
went,
shout out to this article where I mean I'll have it in the
yeah,
link in the description for below
sure,
for anybody
sure,
who wants to read it.
okay.
He
It's on
because
Cardinal Life.
you write for who?
Cardinal Life. This is yeah, that's a page with some magic content, magic articles. You can find it there. So going back to topic of my, let's say, achievements, I made a day 2 in it was GP Barcelona probably. It was very nice day 1, but very horrible day 2. Some bad matches, bad start. I felt terrible that I was 2 matches away from PT, and then I lose badly day 2. What's going on? But 2 week or 2 weeks later, I made top 1 at MCQ in Monachium in Munich. Then we went for a GP Ghent from 0-1 and probably 1-2. We made 10 and 4, reaching 18th place. The worst tie breaks of all, 10 and 4. So we were like from 13 to 18th place. So this is like quite a nice record. And then I reached first place in trophy leaderboard. So I played like a bunch with the deck recently.
Right. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, what really made you stand out was that you were at the very top of the leaderboard. You weren't around there. You had the number 1
Yeah.
seat, most trophies.
Yeah, I was around the first place. Yeah.
Well, I have like screen captures of what the trophy leaderboard looked like. You were on top, as far as I know, unless someone snapped it from you.
No, I have those screenshots too.
Yeah. We all got the screenshots. We all got the screenshots. So, why is it that you love this deck? You know, what is about this deck that makes you tick? Because it doesn't sound like it has anything similar to Counter's Company. I don't see the connection. But maybe you could explain why. Why Eldrazi Tron? Of all the tier 1 decks, why not only pick this one but stick with it that you love it so much?
Okay, so first of all, I don't think I love this deck. I mean, the one I really loved was Counter's Company. Let's say the smaller or worse version of Building Pod.
Okay.
Although I had never had chance to play Building Pod in Modern. So this is the deck I really like, but actually it is very difficult to play with it right now because it's very easy to stop the combo based on auto creature. That's not Barrel or Goblin Electromancer, and it's very difficult to beat people long game plan if you play in world where Karn the Great Creator can just lock the game on the spot, and you play against Scapeshift, and you play against Ren and Plague Engineer and many powerful White Prince Walkers and so on. So when I picked, right now it is possible to play with it. I think I could still do some good job with that, but I do better with Eldrazi Tron right now. And when I was picking the deck, there was like Hogak, Blue-Red Phoenix, Mono-Red Phoenix, and those finishes were the decks that beat me the most, and I somehow wanted to take my revenge to beat them back. And I'm not a graveyard deck player. I'm not a combo player. I will never pick Storm or something like that. So I tried to choose a deck, and when I started playing Eldrazi, it felt like, okay, this is the deck that I picked. It had the best results at the beginning, and it was sort of my style of play. I play with creatures. I have some options to go for the lock. I have some options to go for the Tron, which I never really liked, and I still don't like. But I feel this deck is a bit more fancy than Mono Green Tron when you just play the biggest creature you have, the biggest thing you have. Here you have to try maybe to lock opponents, maybe to go for Chalice, try to figure out when to defend, when to attack, and so on. And basically, this was the deck that was closest to me when the Hogak was around. And I stick to that because I kept winning, and it's very difficult to drop the deck that you win with.
That's right. I can speak to that as well. I mean, when I first started playing Modern, I was winning with like Merfolk like 80%. I can't say I still have that win rate at all, but I mean, I can't let it go since then.
Yeah.
So maybe this may be difficult to describe, but what kind of person is Eldrazi Tron for? This sort of mid-range deck that also has a random lock component to it.
I don't understand the question. What kind of person?
Yeah, what kind of person might want it? Like, what gravitates you to this deck? You know, we've had Storm players on here who describe that Storm is for a person who likes to just play out the combo. Just they love the rhythmic, the feel of just playing out a very similar pattern over and over and over again. There's something soothing and enjoyable about that. We've had Control players who explain that, you know, they love interaction and card advantage.
They like to punish people. They like to humiliate them, right? This is what they said.
Well, that's not what they said. But maybe there could be some maybe there is some sort of archetype or player for that. But do you know what kind of person might want to play Eldrazi Tron?
I don't think there is. We can make a specification like that because, for example, I like creature decks. I like green-white creature decks. Now I'm with Eldrazi Tron because, like, as I mentioned, right, we talked about it a while ago. But for example, in Legacy, I loved playing Blue-White Miracles with Sensei Divining Top, and I will never touch Blue-White Control in Modern. So I don't think there is a classification that if somebody is aggressive, he will play Burn. I don't think so. For example, one of my colleagues was playing Burn at GP, but he usually plays Ad Nauseam. This is like not the closest combination you get in Modern. Anything else? I like decks that are interesting. Sadly, sometimes interesting means weak because you really have to, do everything you can because you have to struggle every single game. And with Eldrazi Tron, I had those simple games when I play Cherries on 1, oops, I won.
Yeah.
But for example, my opponents had turned to Hogak with double Vengevine. Whoops, you lost.
Right.
And I needed my strong, my fast opening just to be competitive then. Right now it's not the case anymore, or at least it's not that it cannot be seen that often, right? But honestly, probably if not Hogak Summer, I would not be playing Eldrazi Tron. So I'm not the type of person that is like very close to Eldrazi. I never liked Eldrazi, honestly, and I never touched Eldrazi in Legacy, and I never touched Tron before. So I don't think there is too much connection here. Just creatures. This is the only thing those two decks have in common: Cantor's Company and Eldrazi, right?
Okay. So you like creatures, and perhaps you like doing powerful things.
Like everybody, I like winning, right?
Well, not everyone plays powerful things. I don't really have a lot of powerful cards in my deck, to be honest.
Okay, you have also creatures.
I do have creatures. Yeah. We both can agree on that. So, is it because of the creature factor that you don't play something like normal Tron? Because like Trons seem to have some sort of presence also during the Hogak Summer, and they also could play Karn the Great Creator at their discretion. So what's the difference between Eldrazi Tron and normal Tron for you?
I want to convince myself that Eldrazi Tron is more difficult to play, and that this is like more sophisticated, because I'm not playing like 7 mana land Karn, 8 mana land Ugin. This is different. Like, as for example,
it's a thinking man's deck.
Yeah, let's say the thinking deck was the Cantor's Company. I really enjoyed the play patterns because they were different. Every game was different. But sadly, I had to think a lot because the deck gave me not as many free wins as Eldrazi Tron during the Hogak Summer and even now. Speaking about Green Tron, I never liked this deck. I hated this deck because at the beginning of my Modern adventure, I kept losing to this. I was playing like Mono White Soul Sisters, and like you cannot win this matchup, right?
Right.
So this was a problem.
Gain all the life you want. It's
exactly.
Meaningless.
And I don't like Green Tron. I don't like Tron in general. And the thing that I liked in Eldrazi that is different is that, for example, first of all, I won with Phoenix, and this was a deck that kicked out Company from the metagame completely because you just weren't able to win this matchup. So this was the first thing, and the second thing is that with Cantor's this is maybe similar. With Cantor's Company, you either had to go either mid-range and try to sneak the combo when nobody's expecting, or try to go combo protected and so on and try to leave until you get there. With the Eldrazi Tron, this is, let's say, similar because it's sometimes, okay, I have to land my creatures, I have to try to do some combat, I have to kill them because they have powerful late game. Or sometimes, okay, maybe I should stay back in the defense, maybe I hold them with Ensnaring Bridge for a while, and where we go now. And with Karn and the whole package from Cyborg, this gets really interesting.
Yeah.
And games where you get turn 3 Tron and you just land something very powerful and you win, this is very rare because you have only 4 expedition maps. And when I play against Mono Green Tron, I feel like they have turn 3 Tron every time.
Well, they do.
Of course, this is not fully true, but they have like turn 3 Tron with the new mulligan rule, I guess like 80% of the time if they mulligan correctly, and the Eldrazi Tron is having this very rarely, so I have to think about other situations, but I have an option to go mid-range with the very powerful late game. Okay, I top the Urza's Tower, wow, now I can really go off. So this is what I really like here. And with Mono Green Tron, first of all, I don't like this deck, right? I don't like
You just don't like this deck.
No, I don't. And I don't like the play pattern. This is like difficult to say because you feel like Tron, Eldrazi, and Green is very close, but they are very, very different in game plans. For example, I don't know, Mono Red Phoenix. It's most easy for me to speak about matchups from Hogak Summer because this is the moment where I really picked this deck. So, for example, Mono Red Phoenix was, I guess, very bad for Tron because you land Karn, and what you're gonna do? You're gonna exile Swiftspear and get hit for 11. And here I played Chalice, and they had really huge trouble. So this was just the discussion of power level. I could beat mid-range decks with my powerful late game. I could chase the smaller decks with Chalice and with blockers. With Green Tron, this is a bit different because until you get to the lot of mana you can generate, you do just things to get there, and this is probably something I don't like too much.
Yeah, so you're vulnerable in the early game, which
I
I mean
guess.
that's what Tron is. It's vulnerable
True.
to the early game, whereas Eldrazi Tron, you have interaction in the early game, whether through Chalice on one or Dismember, was it Spatial Contortion?
Yeah, exactly. Warping Whale or anything else, or
Yeah,
even
exactly.
Chalice.
Yeah, Chalice. So actually, that might actually speak to the people who might want to pick up Eldrazi Tron if they're looking for interaction, if they're looking for a challenge, if they're looking for complexity, if they're looking for intellectual stimulation, they might want to go towards Eldrazi Tron. So it has a mix of that. It has some free wins, but it also has a mix of a challenge attached
That
to it, which
I
makes it keeps it fresh and interesting.
I guess this is true. I think that the most interesting thing is that probably this is like true for every match and every deck, but every game is different, and not only because this is just a different game, but for example, you have the Tron, but you have Eldrazi. You have Tron with Karn. You have no Tron and Karn when I mulligan, what I mulligan for, and so on. But if you really wanna struggle with your brain, probably you should pick something even more difficult. I don't know what is the most difficult deck to play with right now. I've
I'm
heard.
not sure, but I will just interject that not every deck it has different unique play patterns. Because I hear a lot of people just give up to the deck because it just plays out too similarly over and over again. That's why people
Maybe.
can shift from a deck to another deck. That's why I stick with Merfolk, because I find that the games play out very differently, wildly differently, pending what matchup I'm up against. And I can hear this is what you're getting out of Eldrazi Tron as well.
Yeah, and something that's interesting for me might be boring for somebody else.
Right.
This is the first thing. But for example, I always considered Jund as a very skill-intensive deck, and deck that has to be very interesting to play. I was playing with Black-Green midrange when Blue-Red Phoenix first came around because, as I said, I couldn't beat it with Counter's Company, and I liked Black-Green very much. The problem was that you had no free wins because you had to struggle every single game. With Eldrazi Tron, this is a bit simpler, but I consider this deck as a very very skill intense one. While for example Mono Green Tron or Scape Shift, not to offend anybody, I don't think those decks are not the most skill intense decks to play in Modern. I guess maybe you will agree with me, maybe not, but this is
Don't worry. Like there's tons of people that agree and disagree on the internet.
Sure, I get that, but if the Escape Shift is the best deck and you take it and you play and you win, this is like okay, that's why we play for. But in the longer term, I cannot imagine myself playing a deck that I'm getting bored with probably.
That's right. So I don't know if you have been playing this long enough, but what do you think would make Eldrazi Tron perfect for a constantly adapting metagame? Do you think Karn the Great Creator can always be a toolbox that will help defeat anything that comes in, whatever the Modern is going to throw at us?
Definitely not, because for example, I guess that people ask me a couple of times, what's your worst matchup? The worst matchup is Escape Shift, and I don't think any Karn package card can beat that. I have seen people playing Witchbane Orb and so on, but everything is too slow. If you play Karn 4 mana and Witchbane Orb 4 mana, you're just gonna die either turn earlier or turn later to some random artifact they always bring in.
Right.
So not every deck you can beat with Eldrazi Tron, but this is probably true to every deck in Modern. We have such a diverse meta. For example, Neoform, that is not the real deck because there are like 10 people playing it online, and the deck loses to itself so often that you just drop playing it because you want to lose to your opponents, not to yourself, right? But this matchup is horrible. This is like awful. You play Chalice on 0 and they just go Allosaurus Rider into Neoform, you lost. You lose. You play, I don't know, Pitting Needle, like your best opening. They play Oxidize or I don't know, Pact of Negation and combo off. Maybe not Pact of Negation, but never mind. Some Force of Vigor or something like that. If you have Force of Negation, you definitely beat this matchup easily. But with Eldrazi Tron, this is very difficult. So not every deck can be beaten, but definitely Karn the Great Creator gave this deck the reach that put it over the top of many decks and put them actually into tier 1, because Eldrazi Tron was like absent for, I don't know, a year, 2, 3 years. When that Shadow first came around, or when Grixis Shadow was the most popular deck in Modern, probably people start playing Eldrazi Tron exactly to try to interact in the early game with some creatures and finish with big hitters from Tron. And then it disappeared when the metagame became hostile to it. And right now it came back, in my opinion, because this is the deck that uses Karn the best in Modern. And I think the similar situation is with Stoneforge Mystic right now. We are waiting for the best Stoneforge Mystic deck to show up, which one is the best. And then probably this deck will use Stoneforge and everything else will hide from it, because there is always the one best deck with that card. For example, some Amulet Titans try to play Karn. Okay, sure, you can, but okay, this is just some addition. This is not your main game plan. Yeah, and the same story with Mono Green Tron. Okay, they play Counter Great Creator, sure, but they have other troubles that Counter Great Creator is not really solving, because if you have 7 mana, you probably want to land Wormcoil against fast decks, not Karn Bridge, because you have 10 cards in hand.
Right.
And if you have 11 mana, you don't want to play Karn and Merfolk and Lattice. You just want to play Oblivion Stone and destroy everything, right? So they have like different plans. I know that Karn is playing there and is playing good, but I think in Eldrazi Tron, this is home for Karn, and Eldrazi took like huge advantage of this card coming out.
So let's talk a little bit about how Eldrazi Tron was a deck and then it sort of faded away. Now, from what I understand, Eldrazi Tron before Karn the Great Creator had just a bunch of filler cards in it, and one of the main selling points to Eldrazi Tron was Chalice of the Void. And I feel, at least in my opinion, that Eldrazi Tron then leaned really hard on its positioning based on how well Chalice of the Void was positioned. Because if it was positioned well, like it was in that Death Shadow era, then Eldrazi Tron is very good. But then if Chalice of the Void is not so good, now Eldrazi Tron is full of a bunch of like dead filler cards. And now, as we saw in the Hogak era with Phoenix, Mono Red Phoenix, and certainly you can like put Chalice on 2, 3, and 4 with all your mana, Chalice of the Void increased in strength. So how much do you think Eldrazi Tron, in your opinion, leans on Chalice of the Void?
It used to lean much more, but now when Karn is available, this is like just part of our plan. And of course, this is true. This is why I said I was on the top, or I kept winning leagues in Hogak Summer. During Hogak Summer, it was easier actually. The Hogak matchup was like a lottery. If you manage to keep 7-card hand with 1 leyline and some other cards, and they don't have answer, you win. If you mulligan to 6, play leyline and then destroy it from their 7-card hand, you lose. So this was a lottery. Everything else we were able to beat, but every other deck has troubles beating Karn, beating Hogak and Phoenix, so they had to play very fast. They were leaning on 1 mana cards, and this is where we took our advantage. So after Hogak ban, it was actually more difficult, but it turns out that the Eldrazi package, fast mana and Karn finish is powerful enough that even in matchups where Chalice is bad or very bad or unplayable, like against humans, we still have the edge that, okay, oops, I top-decked Karn, I win the game. Oops, I have some Olis Dust, I won the game. Or just play a bunch of mid-range creatures and just stall the game until you can take some heavy hitter. So I think that the raw power of the deck is that high that even if Chalice is bad, we can still win without it having some dead cards in hand. Yeah, so this is how it changed, basically, in my opinion.
Right now, if you could replace Chalice with another card, if something was printed for Eldrazi Tron, would Chalice be the first thing to cut? Or do you still want to keep Chalice in the main?
Hard to say. If they print very powerful card, for example, if they print Ayavugin again,
of course.
Probably we keep Chalice.
It's not happening.
Yeah, definitely not. This was like the second biggest mistake of Modern, or the third one. I mean, the top 3 was definitely Hogak, Ayavugin, and Mental Misstep. Did I miss anything?
Well, I mean, Ayavugin went under the radar until they printed Eldrazi that were cheap enough they could abuse it.
Of course, this is like much more complicated. Not the single card is winning. The same story was with everything else, besides Mental Misstep. So if they print something very powerful, probably metagame will speed up to beat strong finish from Eldrazi Tron, and then Chalice will be good again.
Yeah.
So I don't think that printing anything super powerful that will speed up our deck this will probably make us lean on the Chalice more. So probably stuff like All Is Dust, stuff like Endbringer and Ugin the Ineffable will get cut, because those are the most mid-range cards. If something very powerful in the late game will get printed, I guess this will replace cards like Endbringer, All Is Dust, Ugin from the same reason, because they are just more powerful. Right now, those cards are just fillers. Okay, we play All Is Dust and we win the game that we are far behind. Ugin is one of my pet cards. But I think the core of the deck, like Chalices, Expedition Maps, Eldrazi package, Karn package, will stay untouched, probably.
Okay.
Maybe some Ballistas, because Ballista is also good only when you have small creatures, when you have to finish somebody. They are quite bad besides that. I play Hangerback Walker, Mindstone. Those are cards that can easily get cut if something happens.
That's great. That's some great insight to know which cards you think are actually core and which are replaceable. So
yeah, wait for a second. In my article, I think I have covered a lot of this, a lot of what I consider right now as the core of the deck, and probably the core of the deck will stay untouched no matter what happens, because other cards are just either not synergizing with the rest of the deck or just are the weakest one on the raw power level.
All right. So how big of an edge do you think you got from just playing Eldrazi Tron?
I mean, do you mean the practice, right? How big
yeah,
of
the
an
practice.
edge I get?
How big of an edge do you think you get with Eldrazi Tron over someone who's just been playing it for, like, I don't know, they play tested it for a week or two?
I guess I have some edge. It's difficult to say what exactly are the numbers. We could probably compare our win percentage or something. I don't have the data, but it's hard to say. Definitely, I had the edge in, first of all, mulliganing. This is quite difficult, and it was difficult to make mulligan decisions with the Eldrazi Tron, because, for example, in the mirror, you have to know that mid-range-ish hand will never beat something that is powerful on the other side. And sometimes you just have to gamble. You just have to mulligan to, I don't know, turn to Totnot or just natural Tron, and that's it. There is no middle ground. The same story against Scapeshift, against Mono Green Tron, and so on. While, for example, against Blue-White Control, you don't need that. Sometimes you can lean on your own Chalice of the Void and so on. So mulligan decisions are, for me, very difficult part of this deck, because, first of all, you have a hand with Chalice and some other cards, and I think, will Chalice be good enough to carry on the whole game against a known opponent? This is a very difficult decision. In the metagame right now, probably it's not a good idea. 3 months ago, it was a very good idea. So this is one of the edges. Second thing is, you have to play a bunch just to know what cards you want to get with Karn and what cards you side out, because you side out whole packages. You either side out creature package, but the biggest creatures probably, or Chalice package, because Chalice is just bad in this matchup, or some other one. I think that the edge is real. It's not like super high, but probably, as everybody that is playing the deck for a while, sometimes they think, okay, I played this deck for like 5 years. How much more win percentage I get, more than people that pick the deck because this is just good right now. I think that in one tournament this might not, you might not see the difference, but in the other you will see, because, for example, I played against many decks, and for GP Gent I was very prepared and I knew like every deck that opponents could bring, and we played against team from Belgium that played 2 copies of Lotus combo. This is, how do you call it? Lotus Field. This is
the Twiddle
the
Storm.
Untap Storm, Twiddle Storm, yeah. So I knew the deck like in and out because I played against it a bunch and I knew exactly what to do. I had some good openings, maybe bad, but if you face during the tournament the deck that you never played against and you start thinking, okay, I have seen this card and that one, so what do I set out? So if you have like 100 matches of experience, you will have huge troubles dealing with that. If you have like 1000 matches, then you have like less problems. You say, okay, I have seen this, I have seen that, I will put this in, and on the draw maybe I will change that and I will see what they are playing game 2, and maybe even losing game 2 I will be prepared for game 3 and so on.
Right.
So the edge is definitely real. This is the whole thing that Magic is about. But I don't think the Eldrazi Tron is the most difficult deck to play. Definitely not. But the biggest edge you will get is against Urza matchup, because this is like very difficult match to pilot. I don't know from the other side, but from a Eldrazi Tron side, if you are not experienced, you probably lose like a bunch with that deck.
Against Urza?
Urza, yeah. Yeah, you might think that the Karn is just a win against every deck that uses artifacts, but this is not true. They play Urza, and they have like 10-10 creature on the ground.
Yeah.
What you gonna do? Okay, I will play Karn and I will not breach. Fine, but even if you collected Tron, you have like 3-4 cards in hand, and they already might have some flying topters or creatures from Sai. And what you gonna do then? So you have to plus Karn, wait a bit, keep them off some artifact activations, then try to play Olis Dust because Topters are colored blue probably, and so on and so far. And sometimes you wanna just plus Karn not to get Galvanic Blast. And they will land Pitting Needle naming Karn, and you never get the lock. If you minus them, might do some other stuff. So this is really difficult. What you gonna play around, what not, what are your odds if you play this, if you play that. And this matchup is very difficult in my opinion. So this is where probably the biggest edge will show up.
Okay, but maybe we should talk. Okay, so like that's a very interesting point that you brought about. Karn the Great Creator is not an instant lock against the decks weak to artifacts. So you don't think it's not an instant win in Urza. How about in Affinity and Hardened Scales Affinity? Like how well does this card play in that matchup? How important?
Against Hardened Scales, this is like insanely powerful, because I could see this matchup being like unwinnable for Eldrazi. Like against black-green midrange, this was like the worst deck in Modern probably, because you just trade 1-for-1 with the Hangerback Walker, right? Or with something else, like Evolutionary or some other stuff. This is like unreal, and you don't have a clock really. And with Eldrazi midrange plan, this is the same, but here you can put some pressure, then you can start defending, and you can top deck this powerful card. And there are many things, because first of all, you just shut their combo finish, you just shut their Arcborn to Ravager shenanigans, and you just play Breach. They don't have answer. This is like Breach, and they have one turn to, I don't know, kill Karn, and then you play Makos and Klatis, and that's game. Against Affinity, this is like insanely powerful, but the problem is that Affinity is just much faster. But you don't see too much Affinity these days. But generally speaking, this is like against those artifact decks, this is just a game win, almost. Unless you are on 3 life and they have 3 attackers and you have Breach with 7 cards in hand, you're just gonna win, because you will play Breach, stop them, you will play Ballista, land it on 4, block this, kill that, and just plus Karn and kill their lands, cut them off 4 mana sometimes. So this is like insane power. This is what you consider a game winner. You play Karn and the artifact decks are done. Maybe not Urza, but Affinity, Hardened Scales, they have like huge troubles. This is probably one of the reasons we almost don't see Hardened Scales and Affinity right now. Do you see them? I don't.
I've seen a little bit of the regular Affinity, because they're convinced that they can race Karn the Great Creator decks, but that might be more of the regular Tron kind. I understand, Eldrazi Tron has more creature interaction in the form of Ballista. I mean, you can even play Chalice on 0, hit
actually,
Meta and stuff.
In the form of Ballista, not really. I am playing 2 Ballistas main deck. Sometimes people are playing 3, rarely 4. And I think that Green Tron might be playing the same amount in main deck right now. But I'm.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's a point. So it's not unique to.
Yeah, but we have
Eldrazi Tron.
And the problem is that Eldrazi don't fly, and our Affinity has many flying attackers. On the ground, if you block on the ground, who cares, right? You have Vault Scourge, you have Signal Pest, you have Artifact lands, man lands, and blocking on the ground is not the case. But our Chalice is making really good work. Chalice on 0, Chalice on 1, that's a lot, often the game. And this is the game that Mono Green Tron cannot lean on. They don't have this opening that will shut many cards from their side. So
Karn the Great Creator, definitely not underrated against the artifact decks, no matter what they are.
Urza is the exception, because this is partially like KCI, like very fast, potentially turn 3, turn 4 combo kill, but very resilient. You play Stony Silence, sure, I will play my Urza, I will get my extra cards, I will play, I don't know, Teferi, Stoneforge, Goblin Engineer, whatever they are playing right now. I don't know what they are playing. They don't know too. I have seen them playing like in the same 75, not Nicol Bolas, but Tezzeret, Teferi, and Assassin's Trophy and Galvanic Blast. Like, come on, how many colors you want to play, right?
That's right.
This is a bit annoying because you want a decks to stick to some colors, to make some choices. If you want to play artifacts, blue-based, okay, but you don't get reach in Galvanic Blast, you don't have removal as Assassin's Trophy, and so on. But with the
Fatal Push.
Yeah, exactly. But with the printing of Astrolabe, everything gets twisted like strongly because, okay, I play that card and I can play like whatever I want in my 75. This is a bit annoying, but yeah, we have
But
to...
artifact decks have been doing all this the entire time with Mox Opal.
That's true, but there was like one Mox Opal and that's it. But now they just fetch basic, they play Astrolabe, they draw a card and they do it again. This is like a bit annoying.
Gotcha. So what do you think is the most common mistake made by Eldrazi Tron players? What's preventing people from becoming very good pilots with this deck?
Hard to say. I guess as every Tron, probably not mulliganing enough. Yeah, probably that. And wow, hard to say for me. In the matchups where it's important, where Chalice plays the game, you need to be very wise. When do you play your Chalice? How do you play your Chalice? I made a couple of times this mistakes that I played the Chalice on 1 against White Control, and I said, okay, I have some threats to cover. I will play Chalice on 2 and lock their Snapcaster Mage, their Negate, Mana Leak, and some other stuff. I played Chalice on 2. It was a huge mistake because they landed the Ferry, bounced my Chalice on 1, and I couldn't land Chalice on 1 ever again because my Chalice was countering it. And I said, after this one game, I said, never again. So this is partially the problem. And the second thing is that what you gonna get with Karn? Probably this is the most important thing because you do this very often because every game you have Karn, you do this choice multiple times. For example, against Wirza, in my opinion, if you don't have Chalice on 1, if you don't have any knowledge against what your opponent is playing, sometimes it's even important to plus just in the air, just to force them to use a lot of resources to kill this Karn and so on. So I think this might be mulliganing, Karn decisions, and probably Chalice decisions. Probably this is the most important thing. Of course, sideboarding, but this is important from every deck in Modern, I guess.
So maybe just briefly, what are the strengths and weaknesses of Eldrazi Tron? What are the core strengths and weaknesses of this deck?
Okay, so the biggest strength is that connected to the question, why play it over Green Tron? What do you get? And the answer is that you can fight a good fight. You can give a good fight to fast decks like Burn, like Mono Red Phoenix or Mono Red Prowess or whatever comes there.
You're not folding to any of those decks like Tron's basically doing.
You just play Chalice on 1, you play Matter Reshaper, you play Top Knot Seer, sometimes turn 2, and those are devastating plays. And you can try to manage your gameplay in the way that you use those advantages to win the game. But still, you are in mid-range deck. So you have reach for smaller and bigger decks with your mid-range creatures and so on. But also you have an option to just top deck these very powerful late game cards. If you have like Tron and you have nothing in hand, boom, you top the Karn, you play Lattice, you win. So this is the thing that is sometimes simple. You don't need to think too much. You top the Karn into open empty battlefield. You just land it, you win. But this is something that you have to keep in mind. Play your games until the end because you never know what you're gonna top deck, and you have really powerful late game. And the second thing is that what I wanted to say, and your opponents have to be thinking about that too. Wow, I can play this. I can make a very good play, but what if they top the Karn? What if they just lock me on the spot? I would just lose in one turn, and I was preparing for this turn to play just that Planeswalker or something the whole game. And if I just lose the next turn, what happens? So this is like the biggest thing. This is, of course, different than Jund, but this is a mid-range deck that has a reach for smaller decks, but we have such a powerful late game that we can give a fight to almost anything. Of course, Scape Shift, Mono Green Tron, maybe some Neoform decks that are either bigger than us or just fringe, and we don't have Inquisition like Jund, so we are not mid-range in this sense. But the biggest thing is that you have a game against everybody. probably this is the feature of tier decks. If you're a tier 1 deck, you just don't lose game on the spot. Ooh, I see giant. Okay, I lost. Not the first game, but the whole match. This is not happening here. And the Karn package is giving like a lot of flexibility. Like almost main deck and Snaring Bridge, like a lot of free wins. Main deck, what else? Torpor Orb. Main deck, Wurmcoin Engine. Those are the cards that if you play them in your main through Karn, this is like many decks cannot handle that. So this is like the biggest upside and the thing that make you want to play this deck. Try it out.
So what are the weaknesses of Eldrazi Tron? What's keeping you up at night?
What is making me up? The popularity of Scapeshift, definitely, because this matchup is very bad. Because game 1 is very difficult. They have much stronger late game than we do, and post board they put in Dumping Sphere, and we said, oof, okay, I probably lost. And this is mainly because our main and our only answer to Dumping Sphere is Blast Zone. So we need to fetch it with Expedition Map, play it, pump it, crack it, and we're dead. So this is like I'm not guessing. I'm sure this is my worst matchup. The next one is Neoform, but this is like, I don't know, 1% of the metagame, so who cares? Right. So yeah, this is the problem. And Mono Green Tron is also a huge problem. We can beat those decks, but the games are, first of all, very difficult. We need luck in our draw steps. We need bad luck to our opponents, like not 7-card hand and not Red Tron, not again. Because this is something we almost can beat. And the same story is with Scapeshift. If they are on the play and they play Monvuli Aces Moss, that's game. We can't do too much. But besides that, there is a game. And so this is probably the biggest weakness. If meta games get faster, we can beat faster decks and we might be the biggest deck around there. And this is a very good situation. If meta game slows down, the bigger decks will be the problem. And another problem is that games against Mono Green Tron and Scapeshift are very, very interesting. This is another problem, but for me, because I like interesting games. And not for everybody this has to be a problem, but yeah.
Right. All right, so let's now take some questions from the audience. So I don't know all the Eldrazi Tron communities, but I know that there was one on Facebook.
Me neither. So, I don't know all of them. I just signed for one of those after, I don't know, posting article or something like that.
Got to be connected to your community. All right, sure. First question is, what do you think of the blue-white control matchup? What advice can you give for blue-white control?
Blue-white control matchup is not easy because right now probably the truth that everyone knows is that blue-white is beating every mid-range deck. The big question for me is that why blue-white control is so weak? Why it? Sorry, can you beep some words after recorded? Can you say any bad words? Why blue-white control?
I don't need to bleep
so
out
much,
anything.
Right? Why they suck? Because they got printed like, I don't know, 15, 20 cards. Do you want me to name them? It was like Small Teferi, Narset, Field of Ruin, Opt, Ascanta, Big Teferi, Unbanning Jace, Unbanning Stoneforge, Dovin's Veto, Force of Negation. Like, come on, how many of those? And they still suck. How is it possible? I have no idea. But the truth is that this matchup is very difficult. I mean, you really have to play wisely to win this match. If you land Chalice early, you might get much more clear situation because you can play your Eldrazi not being worried of the path or something like that. But the problem is that they can, okay, I will land Small Teferi, I will bounce your Chalice, you try to play Karn, Force of Negation, Jace, draw 3 cards, I don't care about this card disadvantage with Force of Negation, which honestly I don't like too much. So this is a problem, and you have to practice a lot because you need to know where you want to play your most important spells. They have to fear Karn and Liquid Metal Coating killing their lands and Mycosync as just a lock. So often they cannot tap out, and if they do, it means they have Force of Negation. So you have to either sandbag some Smasher in hand to kill their Planeswalkers or just play some spell as a bite. You have to counter Karn. Okay, I will play Karn. You counter it? Sure, I will land all this dust and kill your 2 Planeswalkers. Okay, I know you have this Force of Negation for my Karn, so I will just, I don't know, fetch Cavern, play top notes here, take a look what's going on. And honestly, if this deck gets more popular, I think I think we have huge chances, because this is not Scape Shift, not Green Tron. We have our ways to beat it. Mystic Forge is a perfect card against the deck. Another thing they just have to counter. Ugin is very good because sweepers are not enough, like Supreme Verdict and so on. What else? Play a lot of basics. Like I play 3, and against Blue White this is not enough, but against everybody it's too much. So you have to pick your line. And what else? Yeah, Mystic Forge main deck is a perfect answer. I play Seagate Wreckage, the land that is drawing cards when you are empty-handed, and this is like a very good card, because often you just trade resources, and who gets better from top deck? If you have this card, you just never lose, unless you top deck like 4 lands in a row and you just cannot empty your hand. But sure, everything could happen. But this matchup is very tricky. It's very tricky. You have to play it wisely. If you are on the play and you have turn 2 Tron, everything gets it's easier now. And I think this is our biggest edge, because Blue White Control probably have to struggle every single game and take it away with grab it from the opponent, and this takes a lot of time and energy. Probably this is the reason that Blue White Control is weak, although it's very powerful. And the second is that you don't know what to prepare for, and Blue White Control is always reactive. I mean, I don't know, reactive or proactive? I mean, they countering your spells, right?
You got a little bit of both, but it's definitely a reactive deck in nature.
Yeah, and the problem is that, okay, sometimes you face the deck that you are not prepared to play it against, at least pre-board, and then you wake up, oh, oops, I have to win 2 post-board games. And with Eldrazi Tron, this is not really true, because you have your game plan main deck, sometimes just to lock, just to win, just to Karn, Lattice, Bridge, and so on. So even if matchups gets very hard and you did not expect this matchup and you are not prepared for it, you still can sneak with some win pre-board, post-board, and so on and so far. Blue-White Control does not have this chance. We have those powerful Tron, just natural Tron from hand openings that are just stealing games, and Blue-White Control has to struggle every single lane. This is the most important thing. If you struggle a lot, don't get upset. You just win 1 game pre-board, 1 game post-board, but they will get time when they have bad draws. You have Tron, and you just win 1 game pre-board, and you know that you are very favorite then, and so on.
All right, sounds great. Ian asks, what decks did you lose to most? Is it like, we know Scape Shift is a bad matchup, but is that actually the deck that you lose to most online?
I lose most to Mono Green Tron, because probably this was the most popular deck that I played against, and then was Scape Shift, and then Neoform, and probably my worst win percentage was against Scape Shift and Neoform, then Tron, and then some other stuff. So, but yeah, this trio is like the nightmare trio for us.
So how about how many trophies did you win
this season?
In the last season, because they just reset it.
Oh yeah. The one that just ended, it was 40.
Yeah, you had 40. You had 40 trophies. So now, how many leagues did you have to play in order to get that many 5-0s?
As many as I could, but it was it's difficult to count, because I wasn't counting them on paper by hands. And I have only statistics from Magic Online, so from March probably. But was Hogak printed already on March? I don't think so.
No. Hogak came out June 10th or June 11th. This is when Modern Horizons came out.
March, April, January. Okay, so from March I could see my statistics that I had like 2,600 matches played on Magic Online. But I played Counters Company. B, I played some limited. C, I was testing like other decks, and it's very difficult. But 2,000, I will calculate it. I have my calculator over here. 2,060 matches. It's about 520 leagues. But if we cut leagues, I probably played with some other decks. Oops, I just turned off my camera. Sorry for that. Okay. And with some other stuff. I would say this is probably around 350 leagues. I'm not sure. Hard to say.
350, that's not bad. So that's basically That sounds about like 1 in 8 you trophy
Might be, but this is like
with my bad brain calculation.
40 is 10. I mean 400 is 10, so probably, and 200 is 5, so probably 350 is around 7 8, right? But it's very difficult to calculate this. But in the very early stage of my Eldrazi Tron experience, I had like astonishing win percentage. Like during GP Krakow, I was playing side events and MCQ, and for the whole weekend, I lost one match to Sodek in semi-final of MCQ. So I went like 16-1. I couldn't, of course, repeat this probably ever with Eldrazi Tron, but sometimes you just face scape shift O2 drop, and sometimes you get this very high win percentage. But on average, it's very difficult to say how many leagues. We can say it was around 350, but nobody will ever check that. Yeah, so we might assume this is true, because no one will say, no, this is not true.
Someone's asking how to fight versus the little fishes. How do you beat Merfolk?
How do I beat Merfolk? Can you cover your ears? I will just say for the listeners, I beat them hardly. No, this is actually the very, very good matchup, because first of all, spreading seas is not as devastating for us as for Green Tron, because we can fight with creatures. Second thing is Blast Zone. Blast Zone is just amazing in this matchup. Blast Zone on
very good.
Is just a lock. If you play Karn and Land Bridge, this is also usually the game. You just play sometimes one echoing truths, something like that. And besides, I would like to say hello for Damian, the guy that, let's say, made this possible and is your fan.
Actually, it was Sodek that let me know who you were.
Oh, okay.
What's his name? Card. Well, I don't know. Someone made aware to me. I'm not sure how I found the article that you made, but then I like reached out to them. I said, how do I get in contact with you? And then Sodek got in contact with me.
Okay, so I want to say hello to Sodek as well. Yeah, I don't know who exactly. I thought that my former roommate made a comment under your video that you are making videos with some people from the top of the leaderboard. So maybe let's do a interview with this guy.
He might have, but I really learned about you through when you made your article. But I don't know, maybe someone forwarded it to me. Maybe it was him. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I know that you were making interview with Sodek, and we know each other, so this is like the real possibility. So again, against Merfolk, as I said, we had like many heavy hitters, Blast Zone, Always Does, Karn with Breach, and even if you have everything set up, we still have many removals main deck like Ballista, Always Does, Dismember, Spatial Contortion, and so on. And if we play like single Matter Reshaper and you don't have Island Walk, you just don't want to attack, because we revealed that last Tronland and you have huge trouble. So although of course I lost to Merfolk a couple of times because I played a lot and I lost to every deck in Modern, right? But also but my win percentage against Merfolk were very high, and I think this matchup is just very good. Force of Negation, of course, is a problem, but if we exchange resources, if I have some Matter Reshapers, some Totnots here, and you 2-for-1 yourself, you just have troubles closing the game. So I consider this matchup as we are very favored.
Do you think that Eldrazi Tron is the best mid-range deck in Modern? Is Jund outdated, and is it time to displace it?
I had some my connection has slowed down probably, but can you repeat just the last part of the question?
Yeah. Is Jund outdated, and is it now time to displace it with Eldrazi Tron?
I mean, Eldrazi Tron is like a bit different type of mid-range deck, but I think this is. I guess we have to check in Modern metagame what's on top. Eldrazi Tron or Jund. I think Eldrazi Tron is higher than Jund in popularity in results. So probably right now Eldrazi Tron is the mid-range deck of Modern. But if you consider Blue-White Control as a mid-range deck and all Stoneforge decks as well, we have plenty of those. So they are not disappearing. They are like growing up right now because of this recent unbanning. And Jund got a lot of strength. I mean, Eldrazi Tron is very bad matchup for Jund still. Not as bad as Green Tron, but still a very bad one. But they got a lot of new toys and new powerful toys like Wren, Seasoned Pyromancer, Collector Oof. This is the thing that they always lacked. This was one of the reasons to play to play white over red in mid-range decks. Stoneforge might be the reason too, but the question is, do you want to play Stoneforge as everybody else and just make the battle of butter schools, or maybe you want to play Kolaghan's Command and blow them up? So I think that the Jaunt is still the real deck. We'll see. I think the metagame is very open. If I would ask you what's the best deck in Modern right now, what would your answer be?
What would my answer be? What is the best deck in Modern? That's really hard to say.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's like it's right now like it's just completely shaken up. Nothing's really risen to the top yet.
And even if you say, in my opinion, this is Wirza, but even if I say Wirza is the best deck in Modern, this is not by far, like, but a couple percentage points. So, and what's the tier 1? I will say Wirza, Burn, maybe Eldrazi Tron, maybe Jund, and what else?
Definitely some sort of blue-white control, blue-white Stoneblade.
Yes,
they're always around.
some sort of, but we still don't know what exactly.
Yeah.
Humans are still powerful, but not as powerful as they used to be. Death Shadow is again on the rise, but hard to say how big. And Scapeshift is good unless they face Burn and Urza. So it's very difficult to say. And I don't think Jan is disappearing because everything is shining up right now. Everybody can pick like one of 10 decks, and everybody will say, yeah, sure, this was Team 1. I'm not surprised it won the GP. So with Chant is the same situation. Like nobody will be surprised if it wins the GP, and this is a good sign. So in my opinion, Chant is definitely not on the back foot. But I beat Chant, but it doesn't mean that Eldrazi Tron is a better mid-range deck. This matchup is just good for me. While, for example, Neoform is very bad.
I think for a lot of people, Neoform is very bad.
Neoform is very bad, even for Neoform, right? So, hard to say.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with Once Upon a Time, because Once Upon a Time now can make the deck a little bit more consistent. So it can go from,
I would say that nothing is happening, but I'm testing limited right now because I qualified for this Pro Tour, as I mentioned, and I'm testing limited. So I don't know what's happening exactly in Modern, but I don't think there is a lot of Neoform, but I have seen screenshot that somebody 5-0 with a Neoform deck that has 10 lands. That's gross. That's gross. That you play so much this awful stuff and you don't even need lands. Come on, are we playing Vintage? Manaless Dredge?
Right.
I don't know. Where are we going? Where are we going?
So most of his trophies, okay, a lot of this. I'm assuming this is true though, but most of his trophies were achieved before the most recent ban announcement. How do you think the metagame shift has affected Eldrazi Tron moving forward?
I'm not sure if somebody calculated it then took a screenshot, but I'm not sure if maybe more than 20 was before the Holodeck banning. I mean, it's more difficult for Eldrazi Tron to pick 5-0, to reach some good results, mainly because there are plenty of decks, much different. Our main deck Chalice is much weaker now, and I thought that after the bannings, I said, wow, yay, hooray, no more looting, because I thought that looting, like, really, this card should be banned like a half year ago or something like a year ago. And I was very happy, but I started thinking, okay, and I started winning with some deck, and I just banned everything that I was good against, because like 2 or 3 of our best matchups went away with Phoenix, Modern Red Phoenix.
Right.
And what now? What I'm gonna do with myself? And then it turned out that Eldrazi Tron is still quite powerful. I was thinking about picking some other deck, but it turned out that I keep winning, and this deck is still good. And this mix of mid-range, early disruption, mid-range creatures, and late-game Tron finish, this is still very good. And first of all, it was very easy, not very easy, but it was easy to pick wins where everybody was testing Stoneforge in any deck. Scapeshift Stoneforge,
right?
Like Tron Stoneforge, I don't know, Wirza Stoneforge, Burn Stoneforge, sure. And I was just beating all those decks because I just, okay, you just cannot activate this anymore. I will just play Breach. You don't have an answer, and I just beat your Stoneforge, right? I can play Spatial Contortion on it. I just play Karn, and you never activate anything again. So this was like the just the food for Tron for any big mana decks. But actually, it's more difficult right now. But this deck is still very powerful. And I think I was surprised. I was thinking, okay, less 1 mana plays means bad matchups for me, and probably I will have to change my deck. But in GP Ghent, we went 10-4, and my personal was 11-3 probably, and I felt very good with the deck. I had like everything covered. I was testing a lot, and everything was good. Besides, I faced like some Stoneforge decks, some late game decks, some Shadows, and so on. Chalice was not the biggest card in my deck anymore, like pre-Hogak, but it was still fine. And I think that the deck it's not the bonkers. This deck is not a tier 1 top 1, but this is definitely very powerful. And bannings did not change that.
Okay. So how do you best decide sideboard options and wishboard options with Karn, like Wormcoil sided in versus burn to draw, or wish with Karn, relic in versus graveyard, or wishboard to wish in?
Okay, this is another thing that you need to practice to know, probably some other edge that you get. The question is, and I was asking myself that question when I was playing against Hogak, do I want Tormod script main deck? I mean, from sideboard. Do I want to have 4 Tormod script with Karn, or do I want to have another powerful card in my deck while sideboarding out something bad? With Tormod script, it was, in my opinion, reasonable, because if you have 4 mana, you play Karn, it is possible with either Tron or Mindstone in turn 3, you just play Tormod script, you are ready to blow up their graveyard. With anything else like Relic of Progenitors or Gravedigger's Cage is a bit different. It was worse against Hogak than it is now against other decks, but you play Karn 4 mana, you take Relic, you play Relic 1 mana, you crack Relic 1 mana, 6 mana is by far not enough to keep pace with anything that is basing on the graveyard. So this is my answer. You need the speed, not the consistency, because if you already have Karn, you will just go get Bridge, you will go get Wormcoil Engine or some other stuff, or Michael St. Lattice, and just lock the game this way. So you have powerful cards in your sideboard even if you don't have Grave Fate. So put your Grave Fate into the deck to have other edges. If you open hand with Natural Tron and Karn, you say, wow, super, I don't even need this Relic of Progenitors in my sideboard because I have other more powerful stuff. So you just have to maximize the chances that you open a hand and you say, wow, it's good. I have Karn? No. I have Relic? Yeah, I have 2 Relics, and this is really good. So for example, I always board in Wormcoil against Burn because I don't have time to play Karn, get Wormcoil, play Wormcoil, attack, I'm dead before that. So you have to consider, do I have powerful options if I land Karn? Yes. So then drop the idea of keeping good cards in your sideboard. Or maybe other thing, I have good main deck enough that I can leave some good cards in a sideboard. So this is my reasoning. For example, against humans, this is the best possible example. Do you want a Torpor Orb in your deck or in your sideboard? In my opinion, in your deck. Why? Because if you take Karn and play Bridge, they already have huge troubles. So you want to have this Torpor Orb in your main deck to have one more very good card to have in your opening or to draw in the late game. Maybe in late games, of course, a bit weaker, but still, you want to have not 4 Karns, but 4 Karns plus Torpor Orb, 5 very good cards that you open in hand and you say, wow, this hand is super good. So we have other powerful cards in sideboard still.
And like Torpor Orb may not be so good on turn.
Yeah, exactly. If
5, 6, 7, you want it on turn 2.
That's true. If you play Karn and Torpor, this is 6 mana. And are you still alive? Maybe you're dead on board already. Yeah. Torpor Orb is very good turn 2, good turn 3, 4. This helps you stop opponent from destroying your Breach. So this is even good turn 7, right? But you need to know that Karn is getting you lock pieces that will just win the game. So you don't need value card anymore out there.
Right. All right. Maybe one question I have is how oppressive do you think Karn is? Do you think this is an unfair card, or do you think Karn, the Great Creator, is a fair card? Because these sort of cards these toolbox cards that can always search out other things, usually over time become more and more oppressive. This is Karn already has a lock as of today. Can this card get so? Anyways, how fair or unfair do you think this card is?
I think this. For example, in Vintage, it was obviously broken, but Modern is not Vintage, and let's start from this that Karn plus full lock costs 10 mana. I have never seen 10 mana combo gets banned because it's like a lot. And the problem might be that we can have options to lock the games in different way. Like we have main deck cards, we have sideboard cards in our main deck, and this card is definitely very. Oh, you have cat out there.
I have cats.
Can you show the cat to the camera?
Come on.
I have
there's a few cats.
in my former house.
Chubby Meatball.
How many? 2 or 3? Oh,
There's 2.
cute.
This is Chubby Meatball.
Okay. Show me the face. Oh, here it is. I have 4 cats in my mother's house. So I'm a cat man actually. I like them quite a lot. Okay, so yeah, cat can be on camera again. What kind of cat is this? I mean, what's
This is, you know what? I want to say it's a Russian blue in my opinion, but this cat was like rescued from a shelter.
just a mixture.
So they just said it's just a generic gray cat.
Oh, that's cute. And the other one is some certain kind, or
Some sort of Persian cat. I'm
yeah,
not sure.
okay, because he has like very typical for Persian cat's color. Okay, so what was the question again?
So the question is, how fair or unfair do you think
Okay,
Karn
okay,
the
okay.
Great creator is?
I think that Karn is definitely very powerful, and the problem is that I mean, I don't want to ban cards from my deck, right? But the problem is that this card is
Of course.
this card is not unfair in the way that it's like Modern is broken because of Karn and everybody's playing Karn and this Karn is like redefining Modern. But the problem is that it is locking artifact decks. And one thing is that we have learned to hate artifacts. I mean, literally, we don't like them because of KCI stuff.
Yeah,
because
locking the artifact decks is a problem.
yeah, because of KCI was a huge problem. This deck was not fun to play against, not fun to watch, and everything around that. And now we have Wirza, which like got several printings, like Wirza, Goblin Engineer, Astrolabe, and unbanning, maybe even unbanning of Stoneforge, maybe not by much, but sort of Mictopter Foundry combo. And this deck again,
Maybe this Emery card is going to help.
I don't think they need any help, but maybe they will play. So we have learned to play to hate artifact decks that just we don't like them, and if something is hating them, we think this is good. For example, Collector Roof. I like this card a lot because we can hate artifacts easier because this is like the way it should be. But the problem is that, for example, Affinity is no longer available tactic in Modern. Hardened Scales is also very difficult to play with the deck, and this is the problem that Karn is somehow shrinking Modern because artifact decks, as long as Karn is around, will have huge troubles like being played. This problem is not, maybe we cannot see it right now because Urza is so powerful that Karn is not stopping it, but I think this will be the case probably forever, right? Unless they ban a Karn one day or just print second Opal and Affinity will be broken, but much more. But for example, there are cards that are just problem because they make some decks disappear. For example, Narset could make decks like Blue Red Phoenix disappear. I don't like Phoenix, but again, this card is very oppressive. The same story is with Teferi. Existence of Teferi is like probably breaking the neck of every other control in Modern than Blue-White. Maybe I'm wrong, but did you see any other control decks? I don't see too much Blue-White, so maybe this is not the time for control. But looking into the future, what they have to print if you want to play like Grixis control in Modern, what they have to print? This has to be some absurd card, right? Because you have Dobbin's Veto.
It's always been like that for the control decks. You know, white is like the sort of color that has a lot of the most powerful answers.
That's
uncountable
true.
Sweepers, Rest in Peace, Stony Silence.
That's true.
So like the Grixis cards, the Grixis decks have so much harder.
Yeah. But there was a time.
Harder life doing.
There was the time when Grixis was the best control deck in Modern when Cory Burkhardt lost finals of GP to Scred Red. Wow, nice joke, right? And there was Gurmak, Tasigur, Kolagan's Command, Snapcaster, and this was enough. Like this was the value package that made Grixis better than Blue-White. And then Blue-White got Teferi or something else, and Blue-White got better. But after Teferi, they got printed like, I don't know, several cards that are connected with White. it means that Grixis needs like 4 or 5 powerful printings to be able to compete. And the same story is sadly with small creature decks. Wrenn 6 is punishing small creatures, 1 toughness creatures so much that I think it will be very difficult to creature decks to appear ever again. So to sum up, I don't think Karn is worth banning, but as a card that is locking a lot of viable modern tactics, modern decks, this is probably a bit tricky. And I have heard on stream by Tom Ross, and he said that, for example, plus ability or activated ability should be stronger than static one. And if you think about Teferi, the small one, Time Reveler, if you make plus, your opponents cannot cast instants, and static ability, you can cast sorcery spells anytime, this would be like much different. You can answer to activation of Teferi, you can cast Bolt in upkeep, and so on and so forth. And the same situation probably is with Karn. If you make Karn static ability some different, and plus ability, your opponent cannot activate artifacts, this would be like whole different, because Affinity would have the whole, maybe not turn, but they would have window to re-equip something, to jump there, to play Galvanic Blast from Mox Opal, and so on and so forth. Maybe Karn would be unplayable there, I don't know, but this would be still a window for those decks to play. And with the way they have created it, if you land Teferi, you have 1 control mirror. Probably that's it. And this is probably not the best news for Modern, but there are other things that we are scary of, and neither Karn nor Teferi is locking Modern in the way they're worth banning or something like that.
Well, it's also hard to tell if it's really all that oppressive. I mean, I'm sure the Affinity decks have also held back a lot of other archetypes just because of their speed.
Of course. And for example, like humans have stopped Affinity already, so who cares? Who cares about Karn, right? And Wrenn 6 and Plague Engineer maybe even, but Collector Oof, all those cards are made to hate artifacts or hate small creatures, and Affinity is punished like on every step. I somehow like the idea that Affinity is always the deck in Modern, and what is Frank Karsten saying, that when it's off radar, this is the best. But right now it's off radar and it's still weak, so it means something right now.
I think in a lot of ways, Dredge has now replaced our Affinity in that role. That where if you're not expecting Dredge, or if you're not expecting Dredge, and you put your Rest in Pieces and all your graveyard hate, out of your 75, and that's when Dredge is going to just have complete easy pass to winning a
Dredge
tournament.
Is definitely not what it used to be, but this deck is still very powerful, so I still keep playing 4 relics, 1 Gravedigger's Cage, and okay.
You're giving respect to Dredge. I'm giving respect to Dredge. I'm not letting Dredge win any games against me. We're watching out for you, Sodak. We're watching out for you.
Exactly. We came prepared.
And
but also, Relic
right.
is a very good card against John and some other decks, so this is not dedicated 4 copies of Rest in Peace or 2 main deck to side like it used to be. So we're fine.
That's
the
right.
Modern is healthy and it's doing fine. So despite everything bad I said about the Fairy Karn and locking some decks from Modern is in very good shape right now.
Anyway, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for this interview, Wojtek. So is there any way people can contact you? Where can they find you?
So first of all, we're gonna make put the link to my recent article in your video, if that's fine, and then
that's fine.
There you can find any contact to me, like my Gmail account, or even you can find me through Facebook, or just write to me on Magic Online. I'm quite often online, so every way of contacting is good. You will definitely find ways to contact if you want. We can do it.
All right. That's great. So thank you very much. It was a very great, candid, and also very insightful, deep analysis into the Eldrazi Tron archetype. If you like this interview, let us know with a thumbs up. It was fantastic.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'm going to thank you.
I would put 2 thumbs up. Thank you very much.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah, thank you very much for this interview, and thanks for inviting me here. It was a pleasure to talk.
Hopefully we'll have you on again sometime.
Sure.
Anyway, this has been Nikachu with Laplasjan, Eldrazi Tron Master.
Thank you for this master.
talking about its development and its playability and its positioning in Modern.